Hey winners, Kevin Ward here. I want to talk to you today about door knocking and some effective strategies for getting the most bang for the buck. And specifically what I want to talk to you today about is turbo door knocking. Now, what turbo door knocking is beyond just cold doors where you're just going door to door. And it's a very effective strategy that a lot of agents have been using across the country, across North America. A lot of different training companies and coaches have been teaching this for a while now. And it's a really a powerful strategy for door knocking. Now, there's some things that I'm going to share with you today that are some distinctions that I think are very valuable. But basically, the strategy is based on this. If you just go out and you cold knock pick a neighborhood and you knock door after door after door after door, is you get a lot of contacts, but there's not a lot of results. And so if you'd be strategic and say, where are some doors that I can knock that are a much higher probability of getting immediate business or finding a lead or getting a connection. And so I call those turbo doors. Now here's what turbo doors are. Turbo doors are made up of really 4 different groups primarily, and this is true in any market anywhere. Number 1 are expired and canceled listings. So when you find an expired or a canceled listing and you knock on their door and their listing's just expired, that is a turbo lead. There's a high probability when you knock those doors of getting an appointment and of getting immediate business. Number 2 would obviously be then what? For sale by owners. So when you knock on a for sale by owners door, high probability of getting a listing. Okay, now people say, well, you're not going to get the first time. That's irrelevant. Okay, 1, high probability you can get a lead, get an appointment, get a listing, immediate business. Number 3 are notice of defaults or distressed sellers. Notice of defaults, notice of trustee sales, which are typically going to be short sell leads. Okay, and a lot of you are in markets where there's a lot of notice of defaults, notice of trustee sales. And when you door knock them, here's a high probability these people either need to buy or either need or want to sell their home in the near future, and you can get those by door knocking. And number 4 are old, expired and canceled listings. I call them old X's. Okay, and the old X's are people that, in a sense, anytime since the crash, the market crash, 2007, 2008, you can literally go pull up all the expired and canceled listings that have been on the market and not sold from 2007 on. And that is a group that, just in terms of profile, has a much higher probability of selling their home in the near future than if you just knock a random door. So these are the ones I call turbo doors. Now, why not just focus on these 2? There's been times when you could just focus on expired and for sale by owners. The challenge now is there's so few of them in so many of your markets. In ODs, there's so few of them in some of your markets, number 1. And number 2, they tend to take a little more time. They're a little more time intensive. And today's video is not on NOD strategies. That's a totally different training, but there's some powerful strategies for doing that. But the key is when I'm knocking doors, if I can just knock these doors, I'm going to get a lot higher rate of return on contacts per lead per appointment. Okay, that's the biggest advantage. What's the disadvantage? Well, the disadvantage is if this is your market area, this is your city, is that there's an expired here, there's an expired here, there's an expired here, there's a for sale by owner here, there's an NOD here, NOD here, NOD here, and there's an old, so we'll call it old expired here, old expired here, old expired here. There's old expireds everywhere, but they're all spread out. And so the problem is I knock on this door and then I've got to get in my car and drive a couple of blocks over to this door, and then I got to get and drive halfway across town to this door and then drive, and I'm spending most of my time driving instead of prospecting. So the strategy that that is now being effectively taught, and a lot of agents are doing across the country, is that they're going to an expired listing and they're knocking on the door, and then since they've taken the time to drive to that house, before they leave, they'll knock on that door and they'll either talk to somebody or not, and then they'll knock some doors around that house before they leave and go to the next, before they leave and drive to the next one. So again, when you talk about expireds and for sale by owners, again, the challenge is if I'm doing this every day as a strategy and I want to do 5 a day and say I want to go to 5 expired and for sale by owners a day, and then I'm going to knock 10 doors around each of them. Okay, so I'm going out, I'm seeing 5 homes, knocking on 5 turbo doors, and then I'm knocking 10 doors around them that are I'm going to use just a simple hot market approach, which is a powerful strategy. Again, the problem is in most of our markets, there's so few of these that 1, there's not enough for you to do it every day, And number two, if there is, you're driving so far that even if I'm knocking on 5 doors that are turbo doors and I'm knocking 10 around it, I'm still spending a lot of time driving. Now, one of the things that you can add in here that's very, very powerful, and it may or may not be a turbo door, but it's something that's very important, and that is previewing the new properties that are coming on the market. And previewing new properties that are coming on the market is extremely valuable because it helps you to know what's happening in the market. And it's important to know what's happening in the market so when you're working with buyers or sellers, you're familiar with the inventory, what's coming on the market, what's selling, and you just get a feel for that. So what a lot of people are doing is a lot of agents are going out and saying on a given day, if your goal is to knock 50 doors and you're going out, you're finding 5 turbo doors or a combination of turbo doors and previews, I'm going to those doors, previewing the homes or knocking on these, and then I'm knocking 10 doors around it or 5 doors around it or whatever. So if your goal is I want to knock 100 doors a day, I want to knock 100 doors a day and I want to get 25 contacts. That's a pretty realistic number, 20 to 25 contacts with 100 doors. Is it going to be the turbo doors or just the regular doors around it? Who knows? But the challenge is how can I do that and be as time efficient as possible? So here's the strategy where you take this approach and make it strategic and make it very more efficient time-wise. So you want to be both effective, productive, knocking as many turbo doors as you can, and yet you want to be time efficient by getting those doors, as many of these doors and the doors around it in as small a time as possible, which means less driving time or knocking time. So how do I do that? Well, the more of these I can find in any geographic area, I compress the area, I just increase my time efficiency. So here's how you do that. Is you basically, once a week, is you set up, here's where I'm going this week. You're going to add in expireds because they're fresh, the brand new expireds, you want to hit them quick. So that's going to be a little bit of a tweak in terms of your daily activities. But these are ones that are typically not that urgent. They're not somebody you got to knock on today. If you knock on them anytime in the next week, you're going to be fine. So what you do is you determine your market area. In your market area, then you divide it up into segments. Now, it may be into 5 segments. It may be into 20 segments. And so what I'm going to do is, let's say that this is my entire market area. And I'm just going to do it for a week. And I'm going to do this simple. You may have multiples of these, but this is a 1 week. This is the area I'm going to cover this week. So what I want to do then is I want to break this area down into 5 sections. So that each day, I'm just going to do this kind of real simply here. I'm going to do it, let's just do it this way. That I'm going to do it this way, and you may have geographic boundaries, you may have major roads where you can naturally divide up your market area, and then I look and I say, okay, I'm going to run all of these, and my goal is every day within any given geographic area to have 10, or if my goal is to do 10 turbo doors and previews, and then knock around it, say 10 doors around each one, that's 100 doors in a day. So here's what I'm going to do. If I run the expireds and I run the for sale by owners, I may only have 1 expired here and no for sale by owners in this segment. Okay? I run NODs and I may have a couple of NODs here. Again, it depends on your market and depends on the size of your little area here. And then I have old expireds. I may run old expireds and I may have multiple old expireds, but who knows what it is. But let's say there's 6. And so I'm looking at, so what am I also going to preview? Well, in this property inventory is very low, so active listings, we'll call them A's. There's 1 there, there's 1 here, and so forth. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll say there's 8 properties there. So now I can compress this, and I know I'm in a very small market area that I can drive this area, knock 8 turbo doors, and preview a couple of houses and knock some turbo doors, and then I can knock 10 doors around it, 5 doors around it, 12 doors around each one of those doors using a hot market script, and I've maximized my time by being in a compressed geographic area. So I'm spending less time driving, and I'm getting a lot of doors, as many of them as possible being your turbo doors. Okay, so I call these turbo doors because they're high probability, and then when I go to that house, that I can knock as many as I want to. Now let me give you a couple of tips. Why this is true, I don't know. But have you noticed, and for those of you that door knock a lot, you've noticed this, that for some reason there are certain days in certain neighborhoods that when you knock on that, you start knocking on doors around that neighborhood today, everybody's home. And it's just amazing. It's kind of like I knocked here last week and nobody was home. And all of a sudden today, everybody's home. Whenever you're in a door, you go to a door and then you start knocking doors around it. If you knock 3 or 4 or 5 doors and nobody is home, my opinion is get in your car, drive to the next neighborhood, and knock on the next turbo door, and then not try that neighborhood. And what you'll find is there are neighborhoods where today everybody's home. It makes no sense to me. I don't know why that's the case, but that's just the way it is. And you knock on that. So this is my Monday group. Then on Tuesday, and I'm doing this all at one time. This may take you a couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday afternoon. You're getting ready for the next week, or Friday afternoon. Is I'm looking up all these properties, and I just know I'm going to do this area. And so I'm looking up all the NODs. So I've got some NODs here. I've got an NOD here. I've got one expired. I've got one cancel listing here. There's no for sale by owners in this area either. But then there's a bunch of old expireds. Now I may literally find enough in here that it's going to take me 2 days to knock that out. Wouldn't that be great if I can then knock this in half? And I've got so many old expireds here, and the NODs and cancels. And I'm previewing a couple of properties here. There's low inventory, so there's a couple of previews. But literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 doors right there. 10 turbo doors for me to go look at or knock. And then I can knock 10 doors around it. And in one day, I'm spending less time driving because I've compressed it. If all you do is try to find the fresh expireds and fresh for sale by owners and preview active listings in a lot of your markets, there's so few of these coming up on any given day or week that you run out of turbo doors. But by adding in here NODs, and especially adding in the old expireds, going all the way back to the market crash, which was in your market area, whether that was 06, 07, or 08, whenever it was that you really know there was a lot of people that were putting their houses back on the market then that were not selling. Well, that's been 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago now. And some of those people are very high probability that they will be selling, if not immediate, in the very near future, within the next 12 months. So you can either put them in as a lead, get an appointment, or if not that, at least build your personal circle by putting them in there as somebody who's a much higher probability of making a move at some point in the next year. And if you'll do that approach, what it does is instead of taking this whole market area and saying, okay, today I've got a brand new expired here, and I got a brand new for sale by owner here, and a brand new for sale by owner here, and I'm going to go preview the 2 active listings, it's just there's not enough houses. There's not enough turbo doors for you to do that strategy with consistently day after day. But if you'll add all of these in, okay, and you'll add in the old expireds and cancel listings and the NODs, the for sale by owners and expireds, all of those, it's going to increase the number of homes that you can potentially go door knock, and then that are the turbo doors, and then door knock those around them. Now there are some other things you can add in here that I'm just going to throw in as a little bonus tip here. One is if you have access to it from county court records, and there's some subscriber services in some of your areas that provide this, and that is probate. I'm running out of room here, but that's probate leads. Okay. Now the challenge with probate leads is if you're knocking on the door of the estate, probably nobody lives there. Possibly, at least a good possibility. And if they do, they're probably not selling. But it's still a turbo door compared to just a normal door. But what you can look for is, everywhere you go in your life as a real estate professional, is look for vacant and abandoned properties, or properties that look totally distressed. And it doesn't matter if they're ugly or they look vacant, go knock on the door. You'll be amazed people that'll knock on the door and they're interested in selling. Especially if you have some cash buyers, some cash investors that may be doing it. At least that gets a conversation going and you can set up a time to meet with them. So ugly, distressed homes. The other thing is if they're ugly and distressed and they're vacant, is leave them a note. Say, I have a cash buyer for your property. If you're interested in selling, please call me right away. Now, to do that, you need to have a cash buyer or investors that you work with. If not, just say, if you're interested in selling your property, please call me right away, and just stick it on the front door. Somebody's coming by that property. The other thing is you do, write down the address, get back to your office, just write a simple postcard or a simple note that says, I noticed your house at 123 Elm Street. If you're interested in selling it, please call me. And then mail it to that address, because it's either being forwarded or somebody's checking the mail, whoever the owner is. Again, you can get on the tax record, find out if the owner is out of state or somewhere else, and send them an email to their tax mailing address. You get in front of them, and those are a lot of times absentee owners. Are sick and tired of it. They're in denial. They're not paying attention to it. Whatever it is, there's a situation that could be a turbo door, and there may not be anybody living there, but if you keep your eyes open, you can find opportunities there, because most those are not showing up on a list, a subscriber list anywhere that agents are hammering, and you're probably one of the few, if not the only agent that's actually sending them something to get that. So if you'll do that approach, and if you're door knocking for business and use this approach, it will be way more not only effective, but way more efficient with your time. Now, what's the key? The key is that you actually do it, and do it consistently. It's not just about knowing how to play the game. It's getting out there and actually playing, and playing to win.